Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I'm your host, Michael Anderson. For the next couple of weeks, before we get into the topic, there'll be a brief intermission to share with you that we're doing a Potential to Prosperity Challenge. July 21 to 25 is going to be absolutely revolutionary for helping you to identify that one specific thing in your mindset that's holding you back and that's preventing you from being as prosperous and as successful as you can be. If you want to join, the link is in the description. It's the same link that we use for Linktree. I hope to see you there. Today we're talking about the voice that sabotages success. The voice that sabotages success. I want to ask you a question. Did you know that nearly 90% of people experience an inner critic that undermines their confidence in success? Yes, I said that right. 90%. All stats from well-researched psychology over the last 110 or so years. This voice, this inner voice in your head can be harsh, judgmental, and in some cases, if you're like me and you had a very difficult upbringing filled with low-level vibrations, this voice can be relentless. It is like constantly telling you that you're not good enough, you're not cut out for it, you're not worthy of success, and you don't meet the minimal standards, etc., etc., etc. The inner critic is often rooted in early experiences and reinforced by negative self-talk. Your childhood is going to unlock for you a tremendous amount of information that you need to correct certain aspects of your life that are not going the way you want them to go. Bulk of the work that we do is sitting down with individuals and taking that journey back in time to find out exactly what took place. Because until we do, that critical voice remains empowered. He remains capable, or she remains capable of continuing the same narrative, continuing and sharing the same storylines and creating the same outcomes that we don't want, and that is the sabotaging of our success. Most people don't know that this is a survival mechanism. We got this honestly, as they say, from our ancestors, but we don't need it now. We don't need it to be as in our faces, in this case, in our minds, as it sometimes is. So it's trying to protect us from failure, the feelings and emotions that are associated with it, rejection, the feelings and the emotions that are associated with it, fear, the feelings and emotions that are associated with it. I'm certain that you see the pattern now. Consider this. Your inner critic can be incredibly powerful because your inner critic shapes your self-image, your influence, and how you go about making certain types of decisions. When it dominates, it creates fear, doubt, and indecision, or some might say hesitation. Both you don't want in your life. It can also stop you from taking the most elementary risk, even if there's hardly anything that can go awry. Your brain, your mind will fabricate so much hypothetical garbage that you won't speak out, you won't pursue, you won't go outside, you won't do anything other than be obedient. And a revealing statistic that came into my awareness preparing for this says that people with a strong inner critic are 40% more likely to experience anxiety and depression. So when this situation with this inner voice is not conquered, it can create some long-term effects that keep us in a downward spiral where we are living day to day by the hormones of stress, that then placate very nicely into long-term anxiety and to depression. We got to deal with this voice, family. We must deal with this voice. It's not just a mindset thing. We're talking right now about our mental health and stability. Louise Hayes once said, "You have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving yourself and see what happens." I support this notion wholeheartedly because I have done it. When you've grown up in the projects and you've had nothing but trauma all around you, lack all around you, scarcity all around you, drugs all around you, no positive role models, it would be very easy for an individual in that environment to adopt those characteristics that I just shared with you. So I've been here, I've done this, and I've seen it work, and I know it will work for you. Changing your relationship with your inner critic is going to be paramount for you to stop allowing the critical voice to have dominance in your life and sabotaging your success. Sometimes this topic is very difficult to talk about because I know so many people who are silently being sabotaged of their own accord. So let's for a moment think through a couple of things that we can do to kind of mitigate this. And I think the first thing that you need to consider is recognizing that critical voice. I give mine a name, and I would encourage you to give yours a name because at the end of the day, you need to recognize that voice and then begin addressing that voice by name. And it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit awkward to be speaking to yourself. So for me, I'm speaking to Mikhail and having a conversation literally with him at various points in the day, all within me, right? So don't be afraid that this has to be one of those conversations that is just loud enough for you to hear. No, we do not want anybody to hear. It's not even us. This is all internal talk. But nonetheless, by being able to identify the critical voice, name the critical voice, now we have a subject that we can begin to work with in a much more defined manner. And when we get to this point where we can note the voice, we can note the tone, we can note the types of words he or she uses, the types of memories that she or he brings back to our recollection, and what triggers him or her to intervene into a situation. So recognizing your critical voice is going to be step number one. And step number two, I want you to separate yourself from the critic. It's been long said in the world of psychology that because this voice is on the inside, so to speak, it is very easy for us to associate the voice with being us. The level of credibility that he or she has, this inner critic, is very high because, again, it's originating from within. It almost at certain times sounds just like us. But remember that this voice is not you. It's a part of your mind. And we said in our intro that its responsibility is to protect you from the types of situations that it has seen in time past create for you difficulty, harm, fear, frustration, anger, and of course, tremendous pain. So you have to make a separation between you and your critical voice. And naming the critical voice makes this a little easier on an ongoing basis. And as you begin to do this more frequently, what you'll find is that your senses will become heightened to, in my case, Mikhail, and we will know in an instant, because we only got 1001, 1002 to make this recognition. We will know in an instant, immediately, this is not me, this is Mikhail. And so creating the distance by labeling the critical voice is the second step that I want you to consider. And the next step, the final step, is then I want you to challenge the message of the inner critic. And if, in fact, it is something from your past that has come forward and it is looking as though this current situation could, in fact, end up like one of those, what you have to do in the challenge is help your critic know that this is not the same set of circumstances. The environmental conditions are not the same. You are not the same person. And there's been such a degree of development that you don't even see how this situation could turn out like one of those in time past. This is active challenge. What evidence supports or contradicts this? We're looking for hard facts. And then once we have the facts, we can begin to break those down to determine whether or not they have merit today or not. And what often happens is that the critic exaggerates or distorts the reality and makes it so big and so catastrophic that it prevents you from moving forward. So by dissecting and challenging this, you get to step out of the emotional whirlwind that's taking place, and you get to look at this as a reasonable person, right? That's not in fight or flight mode with heightened levels of cortisol. You get to look at it very succinctly and make the proper deduction. I think that these three things will certainly help you to challenge in a real way the validity of the voice of the inner critic and any narratives that he's bringing your way. What psychology have to say about this specific toolkit? The inner critic is linked to the brain's threat and detection system, which can become overactive in people with low self-esteem or post-trauma, or those who have had certain events in their past that have been very emotionally heavy. The system triggers fight, flight, or freeze responses, often manifesting as self-sabotage. Here is the whole kit and caboodle rolled up very nicely. And I think it shares for us specifics around these three elements and how they overcome the psychology of self-sabotage or of your mind attempting to protect you from something that may look similar to something you've experienced in time past. Transforming the inner critic into an inner ally frees you to pursue your goals with confidence and courage. When you know that your inner critic, by name of some sort, is there to protect you, now the dynamic of the relationship changes. They don't have to be a critical voice any longer. They can become an ally. They can bubble up things when you're not aware that might need a little bit of your attention, but you know that the sensationalization that they may put on it might be something you have to contend with, but they're on your side. And what you're going to see after you've done this for a time, everyone's duration is different, is that they're going to bubble up. But after you have done this sequence for a period of time, you recognize the critical voice, You separated yourself from the critical voice. You named the critical voice, and now you're challenging the messaging. They're going to be popping up different. They're not going to be coming in the same way that they were before. And I believe this ally can now really be truly a voice that can make you aware of things when your guard is down, so to speak. But because of the relationship dynamic now, because you've got a left and a right boundary for him or her, how to operate, interoperate, and commingle with them in such a way that you get their benefit without the sabotaging components, without them bearing down on you in such a way that your success is halted. You can now control all of the events that happen to you without this internal influence that has the ability to knock you off kilter. This is a hard topic, and I know that it's going to be a lot for you to digest. I trust that it's helpful for you. Do consider leaving us a rating or a review. It helps us to reach more people. Feel free to connect with us on Linktree. The link is available in the show notes. I want to remind you that you are enough. You can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and keep conquering that sabotaging voice.